The number one impact to bad mental health, physical health, social health, emotional health, relational health, really stress, I would say, let's say mental stress, emotional stress. Mm-hmm. The number one contributing factor is poor financial habits and poor financial, even just down to knowledge. It's the number one impactor of those. And nobody's, and
fact. Yeah.
And there's a few people talking about it, but it's not talked about.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hustle on Purpose podcast. My name is GT Ikard. We have a very special guest here with us today, L.B. Hudson. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me, GT.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you here. So we've only met once before, but found you and your business really interesting. It's My Financial Snapshot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
And wanted to have you on just to talk more about you, learn more about that company, because I think it's a tool that seems really helpful and could be really advantageous for people that are listening or watching this. So if you would, just tell us a little bit about you and where you started and how you got here.
Yeah. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A little bit about me personally. Started when I was about 13, 14 years old, mowing yards, classic, young entrepreneur. Just got to mowing yards in the neighborhood. Have always tinkered with trying to turn $1 into $2, fireworks tents, flipping stuff on, what was a local classified list. I mean, anything you can imagine. I've always kind of tinkered with entrepreneurship. Lawn business became a full-time business at really kind of 18 or 19 years old, which was great. And spent some time in public accounting for about 6 years, 6 busy seasons, which is 6 years, which is really 60 years in that profession. Graduated from Washington Baptist University with an accounting and finance degree, and started My Financial Snapshot officially in 2021. Yeah.
So you went straight from accounting into My Financial Snapshot?
Yep.
Okay.
I think it was probably a COVID, had a lot to do with it, with a lot of downtime, even outside of work. I definitely always had an itch to try to do my own thing, and I think I was getting into my later 20s.
Yeah.
And wanted to, do something that I had a lot of passion around, and that I saw something that could be, if it worked, a very large business, and no shame in wanting to do that. And so, just had that urge, and had saved up a few pennies. Yeah. So I thought, this is the time. So single guy, not married and all that, and thought, if I'm going to do the risk, and for entrepreneurs, I guess just a little bit, is the risk of failure is just going back to work. There's the money side to it, which can hurt if you lose, but really the risk is just going back to work. So
that is so true. Like the amount of times I've said that to my wife is like, we're weighing a risk, or like when I was leaving salary job and like the stability of that and going into like full blown like entrepreneurship, no guaranteed paycheck, is, the job market can be tough, but you can always find a job. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I have no fear of me being able to go find a job if I need to.
And a good job.
Yeah. Like
starting salaries at some places now, they're like $20, $21 for entry-level positions.
Yeah. Well, like the UPS drivers went on strike. You know what the average hourly wage for UPS employee across the company is?
I don't. What is it?
It's like $72 an hour.
It's pretty good.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's not like entry level, but like,
do you want to go?
That's
do
the
we
average.
Need to leave and go?
I thought about it. I was like, we can just pack my stuff up and go drive a truck. I'd look good in brown. But anyways, it's I like that, the fear of failure. The failure is going back to having to work for somebody else. So 6 years in public accounting, that sounds like I would have some gray hairs after that.
I've got them.
Yeah.
I'll see if they show up on these great cameras that you have here. So.
Yeah. I told my wife, if I don't have any gray by 40, I'm going to add it, like artificially. I think I need the recognition, or like what distinguished look.
Yeah.
I think men look good with a little bit of gray.
I got it.
Yeah,
All over.
It looks great.
So
I think I would look better with just like a touch of gray. I've earned it. It just hasn't.
Yeah.
It just hasn't happened.
you live a stress-free life. That's good, though.
Right? No.
Yeah, I mean,
People look at me and they're just like, yeah, like GT's got it all together. No stress, no gray. It's like, I don't know what I have to do to earn the gray. Like I said, I'm just going to have to add it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways. So what were you mainly doing in the public accounting? I mean, taxes for all kinds of people.
Yeah, I was working at the time for a smaller kind of boutique accounting agency doing tax work. So
Yeah. So, but through that experience, it's like you meet all kinds of people and businesses and see issues they're facing is probably kind of what led into seeing, this like a niche in the market that could be filled with My Financial Snapshot.
Yeah, there was definitely, that time in public accounting definitely formed a lot of my thoughts behind My Financial Snapshot and the reasoning behind it. People love their CPAs, I guess, or maybe they hate their CPAs. It's love or hate. But if you have a good one, that relationship, we would get calls from clients all day of, do you know a general contractor that we can use for this? Do you know a cleaning lady? So it's not just the ins and outs and the debits and credits. That relationship is really in depth, and you know their business. You're probably the second in line of knowing that business more than the business owner is, and so you're a great referral source. A lot of that experience that I have of just being able to do that, has led to what I wanted to do with My Financial Snapshot.
Yeah,
in a different way, but
right. The most common question I get asked is, GT, how do I get started in real estate investing? And my go-to answer is to go talk to Robbie Cole at Benchmark Home Loans. Robbie will help you figure out the best loan option for you in your current situation and help you with long-term planning as well. He gives out free advice 7 days a week, and he would love to help you. So if you're one of the people that's been afraid to start that conversation, I encourage you to stop right now and call 501-777-9995 so that you can start your investing journey or take it to the next level. Once again, that's Robbie Cole at Benchmark Home Loans, 501-777-9995. Well, it seems to me like it kind of fills a void between, there's a chasm between somebody that has, a normal 9-to-5 job, clocks in and out, and their tax return's about as easy as it can be. And like somebody that's running, they've gotten their business to a decent size where like they have a CPA on speed dial or even one internally in their company that, as businesses grow, they have an accounting department and whatever. But there's a big divide between those. It's not really met. Because I've seen this not only on the accounting side, where it's like when somebody's starting a business, between the day you start a business to between that and the day you hire a CPA, sometimes there's a lot of like growth and stuff that has to happen between those things. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be kind of the void you're filling here with the My Financial Snapshot. You're not really helping the people with you can help the people with a 9-to-5 if they're doing a side hustle. Mm-hmm. And you're not really helping the people that have, $10 million a year in revenue that have, CPA on speed dial. It's everything in between. Mm-hmm. And like I had a guest on, his name's Kevin Hommel. He does like fractional executive services for people kind of in that same vein. Right. So I like that you're offering a resource to people that are in that stage, because that's a really lonely stage of like business growth and development when you're that solo entrepreneur or you're that person with a side hustle. And a lot of times you start that because you have a skill or knowledge in a certain thing. It's like, I'm great at crocheting mittens, and so I'm going to start an Etsy store where I sell my crocheted mittens. Well, all of a sudden, like, you're selling them, right? And like, that's great. And all of a sudden now all of your time is just spent crocheting mittens and focusing on the Etsy store, and like, things are going well and business is growing. But most people don't have the knowledge and stuff that it takes to then take that and turn it into something where it's not just them crocheting mittens and selling them and growing it into like a real business, and also don't have the financial education or the resources to like document the debits and the credits, like you said, correctly, and actually track the nuts and bolts of the business and see, am I actually growing? Is this actually like, am I profitable? Am I reporting this stuff correctly to the IRS? Like, there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen along the way, and you're just busy crocheting mittens, right?
Yeah. And you're just trying to find customers.
Right.
And meet,
Yeah.
this month's profitable.
Yeah.
Or I think it's profitable.
I think it is. It felt like I made money.
Or I'm on the verge of this contract, or, I want to do a new mitten or whatever it is. And you just get bogged down, and there's a lot to do. So
There's so much to do.
With a small business, there's a lot to do, just as much as a large business in some cases.
And you don't have, I've talked about it before. It's one of the hardest things is it's not just self-motivation. It's also like self-accountability, but you don't know what you don't know, right? Like Alex Hormozy has said before, it's like, you know what the biggest expense for your business a year is? Like, I'll ask you, do you know what your biggest expense is?
I do.
What is it?
Software cost.
Software costs?
Yeah.
Yeah, like some, people will say something like that, or they'll say taxes or whatever. And he's like, no, the biggest expense for your business is ignorance. He's like, if your business is making $1 million a year, but it could be making $10 million a year, your ignorance on how to take that company from $1 million to 10 is costing you $9 million.
We got plenty of that at my Financial Snapshot with me at the helm. So that's 100% accurate statement.
I mean, I was like, yeah, 100%. We all only know what we know. And there's things that we could learn that would drastically help us. And I have fallen into and still fall into the trap of like, I'm so busy completing all of these, just the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, right? I'm just busy handling like the fire that's in front of me right now. And a lot of times, especially in a younger business, it's like the accounting stuff just gets put off until it's like a fire. So I'm excited, all that to say, like, I'm excited that you're offering a resource for people that may find themselves in that situation to get it under control and manage it and actually know where they are and where they're going financially.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about it. How does it work?
Yeah. So my Financial Snapshot, and we've got long form content, so this is going to be great.
Yeah.
So tell me if I need to slow down.
No, you're good.
But I'll give you the long story a little bit. Was originally started with the idea to build really easy to use financial tools for individuals, primarily with a personal finance backing. And we were looking at some things, or I was looking at some things and we started with personal financial statements. That was something that I was filling out people's personal financial statements at my old job. We charged $500 for it. We put together a real pretty Excel, and it was a pain in the butt. And anybody, real estate professionals out there, anybody in real estate knows that that's a huge pain.
Yes.
Lenders know that that's a huge pain because people who are, whether you're buying a residential home, your first home, second home, a vacation property, or you're buying rental real estate, and the bank's asking for that as well, it's a complex form to somebody who doesn't know what they're looking at. It is the X-ray of your personal finances.
It's a little uncomfortable for a lot of people too.
Yes, it's very uncomfortable. If you're married, you're filling that out with your spouse, and maybe you discover some hidden debts that are out there. Maybe you discover some hidden savings that are out there, and it opens up a lot of conversations within a marriage and all this stuff. And I was like, well, there's millions and millions of home applications every year. Let's just build a software out there, because I couldn't find one online.
Yeah.
I originally was like, oh, there's got to be a software for this.
It seems like there would be.
There's not.
Until now.
Until now.
Yeah.
My Financial Snapshot. It's the only place you can get it in the country. And
that is wild.
There is one out there, but it's from like 2005 and it hasn't been updated. And it was like $250 a year to like license it. And it looked pretty 2005, Windows.
Right. Yeah.
And so started with that, and that's our snapshot tool.
Okay.
So the name, My Financial Snapshot.
Because it's what a personal financial statement is. It's like, as of right now, because like I have to fill out a new one every year for the bank. And it's like, they just get these little snapshots along with my tax returns. And that's like, it's little, I love the name because that's literally what it is. It's just little like time-stamped kind of snapshots of where you are financially.
Yeah. And I think in some of whenever I was doing it, I just wanted a personal financial statement builder. And I hadn't originally planned to quit my job and go do this full time. I was just kind of doing this on the side and tinkering with some things just to have fun. Only entrepreneurs want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to want to just tinker with something, but that's what we do. Yep. And just in that whole process of, I'm an accountant. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I guess I have obviously some skills in accounting, more of a finance guy in terms of my skill set that comes much easier to me is the finance side of things. But I'm not a software developer. And so that was a really fun experience just to go figure out how to do very, kindergarten level, UX, UI, site maps,
I don't even know
software coding, what language do you want it in, database management, all sorts of different things in that realm. And I was thinking about a personal financial statement, and what was interesting was like let's say personal financial software, which would be like your Mints, your what was Truebill, which is now Rocket Money. I can't believe they bought it and changed the name, but that's a different story.
Yeah. And like their advertisements are everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere.
Like their ad budget is wild. I mean, this is a big tangent, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you can't turn on any kind of content without seeing Rocket Money.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And so you have like the software side of personal finance, which is very tech heavy, very accounting and finance heavy. Great. Glad they're doing their thing. Awesome. Then you have kind of the educational side of personal finance, which you will find like your gurus, Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, Susie Orman, that whole crew.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey, they have done some stuff recently to kind of combine. They have an every dollar app that they're working with, which is basically just a play off of Mint.
Tracking spending. And,
tracking spending and all that kind of stuff. And then it's, they have such an educational, background. So it's like, get the every dollar app and buy the course, or get the course and get the every dollar app.
Yeah.
So great that they're doing that. That's awesome. But in the beginning,
how do you feel about Dave Ramsey while we're just on the topic?
He is my Financial Snapshot. We are very unbiased in our financial education and in who people want to follow.
Okay.
Me personally, I would say if you're anywhere under the age of 40 and you've got things figured out and you're not just in a mountainous hole of debt, you probably don't need to do the baby steps.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good consensus. Middle ground.
Yeah.
If you're upside down in your finances, go to Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And if you're older and you're not on pace for retirement, Dave Ramsey's a pretty good solution as well. So
finding affordable quality property and casualty insurance can be a pain, but Little Rock-based JTS has the protection real estate and property owners need. From liability and property coverage to plans for loss of rent, renovation projects, and more. Just give Matt Barger a call at 501-231-1611. He even has markets for short-term rentals like Airbnb, as well as vacant, owner-financed, and rent-to-own properties. Call Matt today at 501-231-1611 or email him at matt@jtsfs.com. I think we see eye to eye on that because I'm like, my wife and I have been through, early in our marriage, we did Financial Peace, like one of the Dave Ramsey things. And it's one of those things where it's like everything in there is good, but like you can't take it all just as like fact and that it's all going to be like good for you, right? Like you nailed it. It's like if you're in mountains of debt, like yes, go like resolve that. But I told my wife, I can't live my life under this like hard and fast rule of like all debt is bad.
Yeah.
Cause like, I just don't believe it. Like I don't, you can't, I mean, Apple takes debt and they've got $1 trillion in the bank.
Yeah.
And like, they still borrow money. And like, I mean, that's one example, but debt can make a lot of financial sense in certain situations. My business wouldn't exist without debt.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole real estate industry as a whole wouldn't exist without debt financing. And, even in individual circumstances, like student loan debt, like there's a lot of conversation around that right now. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, is that bad? Well, I don't know. If you went to get a valuable degree where you got a good job, that's not a bad debt.
Yeah.
We could have a whole different conversation around the debt.
There's so many
management
factors and things that, I mean, I do think that the student loan debt kind of props up the university system. Yeah. I think we'll see a lot of changes around that. My wife, we have 3 kids under 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And like, thinking long-term about their college and whatever, I'm like, it's good to like plan for it, but I think college looks a lot different in 15 years from now.
Yeah.
I just think it does. Like, I just think that is an industry that's steamrolling towards disruption.
Yeah.
Something very disruptive is going to happen in that industry in the very near future.
Yeah. Agreed. YouTube.
Right.
I mean, like,
it's like if YouTube can get accredited, like, okay, this is a tangent and I won't stay on it long, but like, why would I not pay, let's say a credit hour for a history class costs $300. Why would I not pay $300 for that credit hour to hear from the world leading historical expert in whatever this class is? Because that person can now film their lectures and broadcast it for the world to, get the information, and you take the tests online and whatever. But I can get the information from like the best person, as opposed to like, not that there aren't great teachers everywhere, but at like a local community college where it's like, I'm not saying that professor's not great, but they're not the world leading expert in it.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. I mean, you're right. Like, you'll be able to get phenomenal education at a cheap price.
Right.
And why do you want to go pay? I mean, colleges are going to have to figure something out, because who's going to keep paying these tuition rates? Obviously, there's a social aspect to college that I think is amazing, is unreplaceable.
Right.
To that, in terms of just, you get out of your house, you make new friends. If you're in a business school, you're probably going to do business with people you went to college with. Hopefully, if you're plugged in.
Yeah.
So there's some good things out of it, but it's also like, okay, why don't you just go enroll in like 3 hours and spend all your time on campus and go get the social aspect too, and not pay full freight?
Well, and I think back on it, it's like, I agree with the social aspect of college, but then I also think about the jobs that I had at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Incredible social interaction there as well. Made great friends, hung out with those people outside of work. And it wasn't that much different than college.
Yeah.
So, I think there's going to be something's going to have to change there. It's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Forget why I got on that tangent, and then I said I wasn't going to stay on it long, and then here we are.
We were talking about Dave Ramsey.
Another tangent. Yeah.
But I'll go back, because I remember where I left off. So, personal financial statement builder is what we have. My Financial Snapshot, we're the only one that has it. And then that involved into why is this just used for a bank loan? Like, if this is one of the 10, 12 documents that they're asking for, and if it's good enough for a banker to sign off on to give you a 30-year mortgage, why isn't that used in personal finance? And it's very interesting that it's not. None of the gurus talk about it. It's not incorporated into their, kind of baseline curriculum. Like, obviously a budget is there.
Yeah.
And, retirement planning or, retirement calculators are kind of there, different things, but there is no personal financial statement. A part of kind of like, if you consider it, Your personal financial statement, it's your balance sheet.
Right.
A business has a balance sheet and an income statement and a statement of cash flows if you're, real innovative. And in personal finance, they just want you to have a budget. Well, I'm like, well, a budget's not even an income statement because a budget's just a budget. It's not necessarily accurate, but a personal financial statement can get pretty accurate with the documents. So I was like, well, that's your balance sheet, and you can get a ton of good insights. I think it's a powerful tool in marriages. Like I've had enough conversations with the married couples on my Financial Snapshot, and even people I've like asked, I'm like, hey, would you look over this with your spouse and just get a reaction, which is really bold. And so that opened up into more of the things I wanted to do with my Financial Snapshot in terms of it being like a platform, and shifted us to do more personal finance stuff. But I frame it as, if you need a personal financial statement for a bank, great, get on my Financial Snapshot. You need it. It's easy. It saves it there. You can edit it at any time. Use it, but also use it for your personal financial gain. Don't just use it for the bank's gain. Use it for your gain.
Right. Yeah, you're doing all the work anyways. Might as well get something out of it that's good for you as well. Yeah, it's and like you said, it's like, you're going to go to an accountant, they're going to charge you $500 to do it.
At least.
Yeah.
That's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can do it on my Financial Snapshot for less than that.
Yep.
And have all the other benefits as well.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm alone in this. The financial side of things, it's one of those ironic things. Maybe ironic's not the right word, but it's like arguably the most important aspect of your business. Like if you're not financially healthy, that's a huge problem for the sustainability of your business. But it's also one of those things where it's like, I'm just one of those people. You set me down at a desktop in front of a spreadsheet and like my mind wants to melt. Like I'm just, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and like I'm not a strong spreadsheet person. Like I am just like, I want to be out in the field. I want to be at a house. I want to be talking to a contractor about, the nuts and bolts of like what's really happening and pushing the needle forward. And what happens is I'm very get out there, push the needle forward, and just trust that if I do that enough, the finances will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And like, for the most part, that will get you along, but you reach a point where it's like, you really want to take your business to the next level. You're likely going to need to get a bank involved, or what I've said on here before is, you need to keep your business sellable. Not because you necessarily intend on selling it, but if it's sellable, it's bankable, right? It's like, some of these things take time, these systems, these processes, the making sure you have income and stuff documented over time. Like you don't want to end up in a situation where even if business is good and you've been profitable, but now you try to take it to a bank to get a loan to, go to the next level or whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, well, dude, we're pretty sure you're making money, but this is a complete mess. Like making money is an important part of being sellable or bankable, but like having your ducks in a row is equally as important. Because if it looks like it's making money, but it's a complete mess, nobody wants to touch it.
Yep.
Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's going to loan you money. And you're just going to be like, what happened? Like, I thought I was doing all the right things.
Yeah.
I made money. What's the problem?
Yeah. And that's like, some of the things that I'm aiming to do with my Financial Snapshot is to improve existing financial relationships. So whether that's with your CPA, whether that's with a financial advisor, whether that's with a banker, having really easy to use tools across the board, very easy to use, understandable education. We do a lot of, education we put out every single week where we do, how to talk to a financial advisor, what should you have prepared before you go in the door to a financial advisor? Same with an accountant, same with a loan officer, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you have no clue, like, because I think what we maybe get confused about with as individuals. Like, yes, they are experts in their field. And let's just say that most of them are really good, even though we know that not all of them are good. There's, it's just like anything. There's really good ones, there's average ones, there's bad ones.
Yeah.
That tax accountant or that banker or that financial advisor, you are their customer, but it's a volume-based business. That tax accountant person in April is working on your tax return and potentially 100 other ones, potentially 200 other ones. Same thing, that loan officer, he's focused on your loan, but he might have, I don't know how, that's not my field, but let's assume they have more than one loan they're focusing on at a time.
Right.
Financial advisor, they can have up to, 100 to 200 people that they're advising that are calling them all the time, trying to get stuff out of them.
And if you are their only client, like that might tell you something. Yeah. It's like another one of those weird dichotomy things of like, you want the busy person. Yeah. Because that means,
and to get that elevated level of service, when you show up with your ducks in a row, you get that elevated service. They can take you to the next level, to the next tranche of what they know, instead of them just doing the accounting or them just taken 20 calls about a personal financial statement. So
it's almost like a mentor-mentee relationship as well, because I've been fortunate enough to be both. I've been, a mentee to some excellent mentors, and I've mentored some great mentees. But people get that relationship backwards a lot. It's like people want to be, if someone out there is looking for a great mentor, I'm like, focus more on becoming a great mentee. They're like, well, I need to, I want to get in the room with GT, and I want to talk about real estate. He's got experience that I'd like to have, whatever. It's like, well, I'm at my office all the time. Like, we can schedule a time. You can come in. I'm happy to talk to anybody about.
Are you free later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But not that there has to be something in it for me, but like show up on time, like come with questions. Like, I want to be friendly. I want to be friends with you, but like, if you're coming because you want to know some stuff, come prepared. It's not just I'm paying my tax person, so like they'll just handle everything. It's like, they will, like, but like you said, you're not going to get that elevated level of service if you're expecting them to do everything when you could have done some of it, and they can focus on really getting it right as opposed to handling every detail. Like we all have a limited bandwidth of what we can handle at any given time. And when you just dump it on them and say, I haven't tracked anything digitally all year. Here I've been, here's a folder of receipts. Like, dude, if I was a tax person, I'd be like, no, thank you. Like, I can't, it's literally not worth it.
And we're talking about most businesses, like the small business kind of, we'll talk about the side hustle tool in a second for sure. But definitely, you're talking about 85 to 95% of businesses fall in this category. Yeah. That number's gotten different for me because I'm looking at some new data on business numbers in America.
And which category are we talking about?
People that have what would be a small business, a side hustle, a freelancer, an independent contractor, basically subject to filing a Schedule C on their tax return.
Yeah.
So most people aren't filing 1065 partnerships like you would probably with real estate or 1120 subchapter S corps, C corporations. That's a very, very, very small amount of businesses do that. And so most businesses fall into sole proprietors.
I get K1s from the tax people.
Yeah. Your partnership or a S corp of some nature. Yeah.
Okay. You got real tax professional on me right there. I didn't really understand.
I'm a very average tax accountant. Everybody just know that.
I'm like,
and my CPA friends would probably say the same. But
once you start getting into like I call it like IRS lingo. Man, I'm like, I don't know. That's why tax people get paid.
And I think that's like, for me, like my Financial Snapshot's been unwinding some of my education through the process of this, of how to, and I don't want to say this to like, but like high school is not teaching adequate personal financial education.
Zero.
Colleges really don't. If you're lucky in college, you take one semester of a 3-hour credit course for personal finance. Not enough.
Yeah, I took zero. Granted, I didn't graduate college, but I was there for 2 years.
And in
I took zero.
12-week semester, you cover budgeting and banking and insurances and life insurances and whatever else you can imagine with personal finance.
And most people at that point haven't done anything, so you have no frame of reference anyways. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's one of those things you need. There needs to be like mandatory continuing ed. Like for real estate, have like mandatory continuing ed, right? Mm-hmm. For being an accountant, I'm sure there was some kind of continuing education for that. It's like, we need like mandatory continuing ed just for like adulthood. It's like, if you want to keep your driver's license, take a 30-minute personal finance course a year.
We should have taken like home ec and turned it into like financial ec or something. I don't know. I don't know if that is what goes on there, but like there used to be home ec in school, which like would teach you things about household economics, right? Isn't home ec home economics? Yeah. We should have had like financial economics of just like, I mean, it's just amazing. Like, I mean, I could go on and on about
I've said it before, like the fact that every student that graduates high school doesn't own a business upon graduation, like boggles my mind. Like, in my mind, there is no reason for as soon as somebody turns 18, goes out into the workforce or even goes to college or whatever, doesn't have some type of incorporation. I mean, I know why it doesn't happen. Yeah. But I think those children would be better off if they did. Yeah. There's a lot of benefits and really no downside. Yeah.
Performing a small or owning a small business, even if it's a side hustle, is very valuable, to do, even if it's like a lemonade stand, if you're, a 12-year-old girl or something, or if it's, a boy selling. I mean, whenever I was growing up, our grandpa would have us sell tomatoes on the side of the road at his house in Camden. And
I grew up in a pawn
experience.
shop. I grew up in a pawn shop, and like I did.
So you know all about silver and gold.
Yeah, and I grew up like cleaning display cases and selling stuff, and interacting with all walks of life. And at the time, I didn't necessarily love it, but I look back on it and I'm like, that prepared me more than anything I learned at school for life. Like if I was teaching a personal finance or business class in high school or college, on syllabus day, like day one, it's going to be like, okay, before class next week, you're going to have an LLC formed in your name. Name it whatever you want. And the next week we're going to have a business plan, and your goal by the end of the semester is to have a profitable business. Like you're going to learn more through the doing of that than like I would be able to like teach you out of a book in a semester, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
At least you will have gone through the experience of trying, learn a lot of lessons, have a lot of failures, have some wins, but, and maybe it's just me. I just learned so much more through the doing.
Yeah. And I think like, doing that, like in college, that'd be such a phenomenal course.
Wouldn't it?
All the major, like Horton does a business plan kind of like that, where
Do they
set up and you get like $2,000 to start your business. And
that's cool. Yeah.
There's some other colleges I've heard of that have similar like programs, and there's an end, like not everybody who goes through that is like, maybe they just want to learn about entrepreneurship. Yeah. They don't want to be an entrepreneur. Great. Like that's awesome. We need entrepreneurial education. Right. We don't even have personal financial education. We for sure don't have entrepreneurial education.
Well, and I think the thing that a lot of people would learn from it, because as somebody who's like hired a lot of employees and stuff like that, is what really grinds my gears is like almost nobody understands what all goes into owning and operating and running a business. And you start getting employees, and it's really easy and even companies that I've worked at, it's like your fellow employees are like, well, the guy at the top makes all the money. Every owner of the company is Scrooge McDuck swimming around in their pool of gold coins, right? And it's like, it's oftentimes not at all the case. And like, they also don't get to clock out at 5 p.m. Like, they also make sure the payroll gets paid every week. Like, after being on both sides of it, I will tell you, there are countless days that I just like, I'm like, man, I kind of wish I was just clocking into like a salary job tomorrow. Like, that sounds really nice. I mean, I know me, and it would drive me crazy.
I was like 3 months ago, I was like having a little, I was like, man, I would love some health insurance, and dental and vision, and a solid paycheck every 2 weeks that I knew exactly what it was.
My health insurance, my like private health insurance, now that neither me nor my wife have a job, is outrageous. Yeah. It's like, man, like, she used to be a nurse at a hospital, and we had great health insurance for like no money. Now it's expensive.
Yeah. And you have kids, you have to have it. Like, you're not going to go. You're not going to go
just
without.
Not have it.
So
yeah, it's I think it would just be great for, I mean, maybe exaggerating, but like the country as a whole. Either people would identify, hey, like, entrepreneurship is for me, and I like actually have some actionable, like an actual plan. And like, I've kind of done, played in the sandbox a little bit. I'm ready to do it for real. Or people would learn, man, that's really not for me. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows on that side of things.
Yeah.
And that would lead to them being better intrapreneurs, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with being an incredible number 2 or an incredible number 10, right? Yeah. Like, or an incredible number 1,000. Like, there are people that work in companies as employees that make more money than I ever will by being an employee, right? It's like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think like it would also help, like, that resentment towards your boss, like that happens with, well, he's got a lake house and all this stuff, and like, but you don't know, like, maybe he had a good year 3 years ago where he was able to, get some things, but he might have gone 2 or 3 months without writing himself a paycheck. Yeah. Like, that happens too. And just to be able to understand that, and to understand that, like, you're in your department working on your thing, but your boss is, if he's a CEO or the president or whatever that title is, and he's running the show, he is everything. He's got to be better than his CFO and better than his human resource officer, all the different things, if you think of larger companies. So it's very interesting to think about.
I think about, it's there's that like mantra of like, you get paid kind of according to the size of the problems you solve. And there are certainly C-suite executives that get bonuses that are like outrageous. Like, I mean, getting bonuses when your company's going bankrupt and stuff like that, I think is unethical. We've all seen the stories of companies going under, and CFO, they dump their stocks early, some like insider trading. Like, there's obviously stuff like that goes on, but predominantly, like, those people get paid, I believe, extremely fairly for like the stuff that they deal with. Because you don't, a lot of it also, it's hard because it looks out of whack, because you're like, well, they can't, if you broke it down to how many hours the CEO of Ford works, like, he gets paid an outrageous amount of money per hour, right? Yeah. But he may, that level of job, it's like, he may have to make 4 good decisions a year and like make that company billions of dollars. Yeah.
And like what they're dealing with like is it UAW? Is that right?
Oh, I don't know.
The Auto Workers Union.
Oh man, like everybody's on strike right now.
Like, that's probably a decision that was made 18 months ago, 24 months ago. Yeah. That's just now hitting the newspapers. Yeah. It's just now public. Yeah. But that's definitely something that happened. It might have happened with the last CEO. Might not have even been his problem. Right. He's having to deal with it.
When you look at something like, I mean, even like Bud Light, right? It's like, you know, it's really easy to look at a job as like easy when things are going well, right? But you have one like head of marketing that like makes a big snafu, and all of a sudden the company is like worth nothing.
Yeah.
Like if I had told you 18 months ago that Anheuser-Busch was going to be worth next to nothing, you'd have said no chance.
Yeah.
It takes like one bad decision, right? Or like you look at like Warren Buffett. It's like, I think he was quoted saying he's made like 12 great decisions or 12 great investments. And the dude's been investing for 60 years. It's
and
like,
owns hundreds of companies.
Right. It's like you, there's an incredible amount of value in the expertise that leads to somebody being able to make big decisions well, and they get paid accordingly. Anyways, I took us down another rabbit hole that I forgot how we got started.
No, it's good. I don't know where we got started on that one. It was a good one.
Yeah, we've been on that one for a minute.
Executive compensation in America.
Yeah. Here's our hot take. CEOs are paid accordingly to what they do.
And it's always like, there's two sides of the coin. Like there's the, we don't have to keep talking about executive comp, but it is interesting to think about, like where you see that CEO, this is another thing about timelines, like their comp package was determined 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and it's based on performances and it's tied into a million different things, where a lot of times, I bet if you went to most CEOs and you said, of like a public company, you'd say, what's your stock compensation going to be at the end of the year? They would say, I have no clue. You know, it might be my base of 1.5, but I might get $20 million of stock incentives.
Yeah.
And it just depends on what happens between here and then.
Yeah.
Which
I'm
is
just focused on making this business as big or as profitable or whatever as I
hope
can.
I have those problems one day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I used to be more that way, is like, you know, but I think of, you know, like a Elon or like a Jeff Bezos. And I'm just like, if I scale what I deal with on a daily basis and like the size of my company, and I scale it up to like something like Amazon, I'm just like, dude, I don't know. I think it would break me.
Yeah.
I think I'd be curled up in a ball in a corner somewhere, in a padded room, probably in a straitjacket. I just don't. At this stage of my life, dude, even just having 3 kids is like, most days I'm like, I don't know, man. This is like going to break me. This is going to be what does it. This is like the straw, the final straw on the camel's back. Like it's going to be what breaks me. It's just keep going. I mean, and I think those guys have done that. You know, if you dropped a 22-year-old Elon into exactly where he is today, he'd be like, oh my God. Like,
yeah. Grew into it.
Right. Yeah. So all that to say, like, I think talking to fellow entrepreneurs and business leaders out there, it's like, you know, the daily repetition just makes you stronger, helps you deal with bigger issues as they come. And you start realizing that you become a little calloused. It's always going to be something. If it wasn't something, it'd be nothing, and that would be bad too, you know?
Yeah.
And along the way, you figure out systems, processes, how to get your finances in order, how to get, you know, all of that stuff in order, and you slowly go to the next step and whatever. But the financial side of things, the side hustle tool.
Yeah.
So like what is that? Is that, I mean, I assume the name is somewhat explanatory of like, it's for someone that's starting a side hustle, has a side hustle.
So on my Financial Snapshot, we build this elevator pitch again. We'll put it in here twice.
Yeah.
Really easy to use financial tools, really easy to use financial education and content that comes out every single week. It's $50 a year,
Yeah.
unlimited access, or $6.99 a month. It's super cheap. You can go call your accountant later
Cheaper
today.
than Netflix.
He's cheaper than Netflix, very valuable, and we're just at the start. We don't sell any other financial products or services. That's why we charge, where other places might offer something for free, like NerdWallet, for instance. You can subscribe to their newsletters for free. Every single day, you're going to get an offer to buy something on their site.
Right.
That's out there. That's great. That exists. They have unlimited ad budgets. I'm not touching them. I'm trying to help people in their day-to-day.
Yeah.
We started with the Snapshot Tool, the personal financial statement builder. We have a budgeting tool as well. So you can complete a budget. You can have a budget and you compare it to what you actually spend as well. And then we just launched our side hustle tool. So we have 3 tools now on the platform. You get all those for one price, which is really cool because people are using the side hustle tool now and they're like, oh, I want to go use the budgeting tool. And this is what's really cool about it, about how just everything's designed using the same process. It's one thing at a time, step by step. So on a personal financial statement builder, it asks you what assets do you have. You can input those one at a time. What liabilities do you have? Input those one time at a time. And what's your annualized income across those categories? Input those one time at a time. Same thing with your budget. It's your income, your investments and savings, and your expenses. And the side hustle tool is really cool. So don't let it fool you. If you have a small business that's like your full-time gig, it can be used for that as well.
Yeah.
Think of it being like QuickBooks for Dummies or Baby QuickBooks, kind of like that. You do not have to be an accounting or finance major to operate this tool. You have to have no familiarity with Excel to be able to operate this tool. I think that in kind of this, what you would call bookkeeping space, your first step is either have an Excel sheet, which you had kind of mentioned earlier. You don't want to deal with it. A lot of people don't know how to work Excel. Which is
or
like,
QuickBooks. I'd have to deal with both. And QuickBooks is great.
Yeah.
But it's very much blank slate, and you can like configure things but like you need an accountant to help you at the very least, like set up your QuickBooks,
set up chart of
accounts.
Run your first bank reconciliation, all that kind of stuff through there.
Like, because if you try to do that yourself, ask me how I know. You will.
How do you know?
You will make a mess of it. Like, me as somebody that doesn't know accounting background. I mean, I think I took an accounting class, which was really just the jargon of accounting. It's got its own language, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to be going into QuickBooks and trying to set up your own chart of accounts.
Yeah.
Because you'll mess it up.
So if you have a small business, a side hustle, if you're a freelancer or an independent contractor, which would kind of fall into you're getting your income not from a W-2, from a 1099, and that's forms typically a 1099 NEC form now. If that's where you're deriving your primary source of income, you are filing, more than likely, you're a sole proprietor, and you're filing what's called a Schedule C. That Schedule C goes on your individual tax return. And that changes things a lot for that taxpayer or for that individual. And while you can't deduct certain things as an employee of a business from like a W-2 income, salaries and wages, if you're a contractor, you're afforded, you can deduct certain things. Now that can be across the board. And what the side hustle tool is it is a Schedule C builder where you don't have to set up a chart of accounts. We have it set up for you. It's simple. It's step by step. So you log in, you set up your side hustle, which is just the name of your business. If it's your name, then it's just your name, where you can run a report, monthly or annual report. And whenever you're filling it out, it'll ask you, what income did you have that month? Did you have cost of goods sold, or do you carry inventory in that business? Which for a lot of people is going to be no. So you can just skip it. Don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And then you have your expenses, advertising, commissions and fees, supplies, rent, meals and entertainment, or meals, not meals and entertainment. Sorry, tax code change. But meals, travel, everything like that. On top of that, we have info buttons scattered throughout the whole entire site. So if you're not sure what something is, you can check that out, with the goal being that you can track the income and expenses for your business. You no longer have to go to a bookkeeper. It's very simple to use, and with the goal of ultimately your business becoming large enough where you do need a bookkeeper, where you probably will need QuickBooks eventually. But when you're just a small business owner, and you had mentioned kind of everybody having an LLC, you don't have to have an LLC to conduct business.
Right.
You don't have to have an LLC to report that on your tax return. And I'm not a proponent of necessarily spending money just for the sake of it in your business, like you had said about being bankable. If you own a small business, even if it's a side hustle, you want to show profit on that business. You want that to show as much profit as possible, because that's going to let you eventually take loans against that if you want to grow your business.
Yeah.
Buy vehicles in the name of that business if you have the ability to do that. If you're just a small business owner, you have to have 3 years of a Schedule C prepared to be able to go and just get a bank loan so you can buy a residential property if you want to live in it. And so you want to be profitable, but if you are not tracking your tax deductible expenses, we want to make sure that we're reporting those, because self-employment tax is so high.
It's a fine line, right? Because like a lot of people will like, well, I want my taxable income to be 0. And it's like, do you really?
Yeah. Because you don't.
Right.
Unless you're just spending that money. Like if you've already spent it and you're looking back and you're like, oh gosh, we didn't make any money.
Yeah. Yeah. There are instances where it's not as commonly good as people I think would think that it is. Is you're not showing a profit and paying any taxes, it's not as good as you think it is. And you don't want to get to a place where like you said, you want to buy that property, you want to get that loan for your business for whatever, and you can't show a profit because you've been trying to avoid paying taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, sometimes you'll go to an accountant and they just want to maximize your tax deductions.
Yeah.
And that's where this finance role comes into play, where it's like, okay, maybe I don't need to go spend this money on these 2 new computers that I don't need at the end of the year, because that's just going to be that much more profit I can show.
And or get the new truck. I got to get the new truck every year so I can write it off. It's like, it's everybody's like favorite phrase. It's just like when you hear somebody say something about like they need a write off, it's like, do you?
Yeah.
Do you really? Like, and I'll even have, there'll be like I'm trying to think of like salespeople will almost use it as a thing. Like you can write it off. It's like, yeah, I'm good. Like it's not necessarily a great sales pitch. It's like, I'm good. I got, with real estate, especially like trust me, there's plenty of expenses that I get to write off. It is a cost heavy business.
Yeah. You could constantly be doing remodels.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like you could, every year you could, essentially go net neutral on your revenue.
Yeah. Like there's never something outside of the real estate itself that I ever need to worry about spending money on for it to be a write-off. Like, trust me, business spends enough money as it is.
And it's like, if you think about it, and this is like a hard pill to swallow for a lot of, I think, just entrepreneurs and small businesses. It's like, if you made $10,000 in profit, you're going to pay tax on that. And if you're filing it on a Schedule C, you have self-employment tax, federal income tax, and you have your state income tax, like if you're in Arkansas. And it's going to be a lot. Like, it's probably going to be closer to 40% than you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that stinks. But that's still $6,000 in your pocket.
Yeah.
Versus if you go and just spend $10,000 so you don't have to pay tax, you have nothing.
Right.
So they're like, well, I don't want that money going to the government. Well, I'm like, well, not money going to the government means no money's coming to you.
Yeah. Like there's not like yeah.
It's not fun.
Right.
But it's the reality. It's just a fact.
Right.
And this is exclusive to Schedule C businesses. Real estate is a little bit different, where
it's a little bit
you can be cash flow positive and you can take a tax deductible loss. Thank you, depreciation.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to say anything wrong in case my IRS agent's watching the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Schedule C businesses, not real estate. Big difference.
well, I've had this conversation a lot because like people want to shut down the tax loopholes. It's another word that even being a non-financial professional, I'm like, how did that turn of phrase become so popular and commonly used? There's no such thing as a tax loophole. There is there's nothing that's in the tax code that like just got overlooked, like, oopsie, like we didn't think about that. It's like, you know how intentional, like all of the verbiage, I mean, you know way better than I do, but it's like,
I'm 3 years out of it, so I'm a little bit behind.
But there's the term tax loophole obviously has like a negative connotation to it. And it's like, it needs to be rebranded as like government incentive. Because that's what they are. It's like it's written in a way for businesses to be incentivized by the government to provide value in areas that the government knows it can't do well, right? Like government incentivizes real estate quite a bit in a lot of different ways. And it's because like the government to some degree knows that it would completely screw the pooch when it comes to providing rent houses to the percentage of the population that rents. I mean, it would just, can you imagine like the DMV running like property management?
That would not be super fun.
It would be awful.
Yeah.
It would be awful. Yeah. So anyways, the tax loophole thing kind of gets me because I'm just like, it implies that there's just things that got overlooked and that there's just like ways to navigate around the IRS that the IRS isn't aware of. And maybe there are some. I'm sure there is. Like nothing's foolproof. Even with, constant iteration, there's going to be iteration on the other side trying to figure out how to navigate it. But like, I just don't think it's the IRS is as negligent as people would imply with how often they say tax loophole.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. It's weird to think about like the tax code being something that nobody reads. 99% of people don't read it, don't care to read it.
The number's higher than 99%.
Yeah. And it's a huge document and the language is really weird. And that like, what is a tax loophole? Is it really a tax loophole or is it this person using, really what happens is it's tax deferred. You're just deferring it and pushing it down the road.
Yeah.
And obviously real estate, like you have depreciation, which is great until you sell the property.
Right.
And then you have what's called lovely capital gains.
Boom.
And then if you're smart, you do a 1031, or if you can, you do a 1031 exchange and you just punt it down the road.
Yeah. And you do some interesting like trust related things where it's like something happens to me, properties in a trust and not in somebody else's name.
Yeah.
And there's
unless we just stop that in its tracks,
yeah. Well, there's always a legislative risk, right? There's all kinds of different types of risk in any business. Legislative is always one to take into account, but it's also one of the hardest ones to prepare for because like, how are you really going to prepare for what legislative changes are going to happen in real estate in the next 20 years?
Yeah.
Because like, if you're in real estate, I suggest at least part of your investment be long-term. And like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what legislative risk there is in single family housing the next 20 years. Probably a lot.
Yeah.
But like, I can't sit here and just be like, oh, what's the government going to do?
Yeah. Out of your control.
Out of my control. So you just have to kind of do the best you can with the knowledge at hand at the moment and get your finances in order with my Financial Snapshot.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And that's like, we put out a ton of things around financial health.
Yeah.
The number one impact to bad mental health, physical health, social health, emotional health, relational health, really stress, I would say, let's say mental stress, emotional stress. The number one contributing factor is poor financial habits and poor financial even just down to knowledge. It's the number one impactor of those.
Oh,
And nobody's, and
fact. Yeah.
And there's a few people talking about it, but it's not talked about. Even among like mental
It's
health,
taboo, right?
mental
It's
health
like,
professionals.
Yeah.
They are not talking about financial health.
Right.
And the number one thing that you can do is just to literally look at your finances.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how bad it is. I promise you, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
Like being in the space, like
Right.
you're okay.
Yeah.
Probably. You know, even if you're bad, you're okay. Like you can get out of it. This is like, be glad that you live in the United States, like where there are financial solutions upon financial solutions upon financial solutions. There's entire businesses that help you get out of bad financial positions.
Yeah.
And if you're kind of in an average position and you're trying to step up, it's super easy. But like, you can't do that unless you look at your budget.
Yeah.
What assets,
Well, like
what assets do you have?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know, go fill out a personal financial statement.
Yeah.
How's your business doing? I have no clue. I don't know. I just give all my stuff to my accountant and he tells me what taxes to write.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, well, how are you making decisions within your business?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I'm like, but that's what, like, we have to build tools that people can use.
Right.
That where they can do it, where they can make the decisions.
Yeah.
No one knows your business better than you.
Right.
No one knows your life better than you.
Right.
And you want to pass those off to other,
Yeah. The step-by-step nature of it, I think, is huge. Because you can walk through the steps as opposed to, I'll mention QuickBooks just because it's what I have the most personal experience with. And like I said, it's great, but it's overwhelming to somebody that's not a financial guy, to just be dropped into QuickBooks. And it's like, okay, like I'm going to tackle this thing finally. I know I've got to get it in order. I'm going to connect it to my bank account. You do that and like, oh my God, there's, I've been dropping the ball. I've been avoiding this. There's 250 transactions that need to be classified, and like that needs to go, they got to be classified to the chart of accounts. And like, what is a chart of accounts? I've been like there, and it's like, long nights trying to like figure it out. And it's not intuitive. It's not easy. Once you kind of have it going after a lot of like money and a lot of help, it's much, much, much better now. But, if I could go back in time and have something like this where it's just like, I needed the baby steps. I needed the like step by step, get something basic and then kind of keep fleshing it out. And as the business grows, right, it tends to be a very daunting thing to start. So like, you're giving somebody a way to like start without it being even more daunting than it has to be, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. So, and like, if you have a small business and you're using QuickBooks, but you're not using it, that's another thing that I found. It's like, there's a lot of people that are like, I'm paying $60 a month to use QuickBooks and I don't even use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you need to get to my Financial Snapshot.
Right.
Because you're actually going to use it.
Right.
Like, how amazing is that? And I've got people, we've only had the product drop for about 2.5 months. So it's,
oh really?
Yeah. So it's
fresh.
It's fresh. It's as brand new as it could be, but it's our number one product. We're growing finally. For small business owners, keep going. It takes time.
Keep going.
Do not be afraid to fail. I could talk about the failures within the business. Like,
please do.
We could probably have 4-hour long conversation. But it's just keep going, keep building, keep putting your name out there. But yeah, it's just amazing to see people who, they just started their business or they've been running a business for years that are like, they're using it. It doesn't even take an hour the first time you use it. Maybe it takes you 10 to 15 minutes the second time you use it. And it's just the peace of mind and the light bulb that they get. We're like, oh, I can do this. Right. And they're getting clarity around their business. And then they're looking, they're like, oh yeah, I had this software I was using, 6 months ago that I'm still paying for. I need to go cancel that.
Right.
I'm still paying for this over here. I'm spending money here on advertising, but it's not making me any money. Maybe I need to look at spending money elsewhere for advertising.
Yeah.
That's the
because they're actually tracking it and
Yep.
like seeing. Yeah. And at the end of the year and moving forward into the future, they're able to like present documents to lenders and, they'll get some of the education on preparing those, and they have the numbers and they have the documents, and like going to their tax professional, like you said, they get that higher level service because they're prepared.
Yeah.
They're giving their tax professional applicable documents and stuff that they need, and it's accurate, and it's just better for everybody.
And we have support. So like,
cool.
If you, subscribe and you're like, I don't know how to operate this thing. You said it was super easy.
Yeah.
Schedule a time in 15 minutes. We can have a Zoom and we'll show you exactly how to use it. It's super easy to use.
Yeah.
If you have a question around like, we're informational only, anything that we put out, it's obviously like talk to your tax accountant, like
not
that whole thing.
Yeah.
But like, if you're like, I have some questions for my tax accountant, we'll send you any of the content that we've done historically around that can help better frame you, help you talk to that tax professional, help you talk to that banker. We have checklists. We have a ton of stuff that we're doing. So
yeah, that's great, because obviously not everybody's a financial professional, right? But we all deal with finances. And so it leads to this place of like, there's just a disconnect there. It's like I kind of experience the same thing in real estate, right? It's like I am a real estate professional. Not everybody is, but we all interact with real estate.
Yeah.
It's like you are a financial professional, but it's hard to reconcile the difference when, everybody that I talk to knows, just enough about real estate to be dangerous to themselves and others. It's like, it's very much the same, I feel like, with the financial side of things. Like people that you talk to about, we all deal with money, and most of us know just enough about it to be dangerous to ourselves and others, right?
Yeah.
Like most of us know a lot. If you ask me to write down a list of ways to make money and ways to spend money, my list on ways to spend money is probably going to be a lot longer than the ways I know to make money, and that's where most people are at. It's like, most of us are very good consumers. Most of us are very good at spending money, myself included. I can spend money like nobody's business. Making it just is there's the rub, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to reconcile that difference. I was just making that connection because I'm trying to meet people in the middle between a real estate user and a real estate professional. I think you're kind of doing the same thing with the finances. Like you're trying to meet in the middle between the financial professional and the financial consumer or user, right? And it's a beast. It's a job. Yeah. It's a business, right? It's like,
and we have a wide array of like users, which is cool. Yeah. Like on the Side Hustle tool, we've got some people with some sizable businesses that are tracking their income and expenses on there. People who have accounting and finance backgrounds, they're just using it because they're like, it's that easy. Like, why would I want to mess with QuickBooks?
Yeah.
We have people who literally have no clue, who like almost want to cry just thinking about it, right? I mean, and that's a very
common
financial fear is up there with like the fear of public speaking. Like it's a real thing and it's silent. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if that's what I got to do in life is get people like comfortable. And I'm not saying like go be on a podcast or anything, but I'm like, if you're not comfortable with yourself and your bank account, you have no clue what just a very small step of going to do some of those things, how much better that's going to open up other stresses in your life.
Yeah, because it's way easier to go, man, I'm afraid of talking in front of a crowd than it is to go, man, I'm afraid to check my bank account.
Yeah.
It's like you're almost never going to hear anybody say that, but it's a reality for like, a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I mean, the times when my finances are the worst have been the times I check my bank account the least, right? And it's what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, did my did my finances get bad because I wasn't looking at it frequently enough?
Yeah.
Or whatever the opposite.
We also have will license our software to a company as like a fringe employee benefit as well.
Cool.
So like if a company just wants, obviously their employees get full access to the system, but a lot of employees have side hustles. So the side hustle tool is a perfect fit.
Yeah.
They can budget, they can update their net worth, see where all those employee retirement plans are.
Yeah.
And we can do, we do in-person training or virtual training with those companies as well. In order just to like, maybe you have a benefits package, right? Where we come in and we just do very basic education around those, right? Like, this is your HSA. Here's the tax benefits of your HSA. If you are not contributing to your HSA, maybe you should. Like,
well, it benefits the employees. It benefits the business, and it benefits you. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah, and you know the statistics on like people living paycheck to paycheck. 58 to 62% of Americans live in paycheck to paycheck. That number does not go down that much when you enter into the $100,000 earners. It doesn't even go down that much when you enter into the $200,000 a year earners.
Yeah.
And you have all these negative statistics, right? And go get on Twitter or X for 5 minutes and you're going to see something, or at least on my feed, some doom and gloom financial statistic of how much money it's going to take to save for retirement, how much money it's going to take to pay for a kid's college education, how much money is just even daycare right now. Good Lord, daycare is expensive.
Everything.
And just all this stuff, rising cost of living, whatever, what it's like, okay, who wants to be a solution, right? And companies, I think, really need to, I'm trying to raise awareness on the conversation within companies of saying your standard, typical, traditional employee benefit packages aren't doing anything to discuss financial health and giving no tools and resources to your employees just to go and fill something out as simple as a budget.
Yeah, that's so true.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
The number one expense to most companies is payroll expense.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that you reinforce your employees in order to be better employees is to get them solidified in their financial position. And it's not more pay, it's financial awareness.
Yeah, because at least in my experience working for, a few large businesses, and as I got into like upper level management and to a point where I was in the discussion for raises for my team underneath me, I heard it said a couple of times that it was like, I would say something like, well, this employee is unhappy and they haven't had a raise in a little bit. And I think they deserve the raise and whatever. And it is mentioned a couple of times like, well, raises don't make people happy. At the time I was like, well, that's BS coming from the ownership that has to cut the check for the raise. Like they just don't want to pay them. And then I saw it played out in real life. It's like, a raise will keep somebody happy for a little bit, but if an employee's unhappy, it's often not caused by a raise. And I think part of that is because more money doesn't help if you don't know what to do with the money. If anything, it can just keep making it worse. It's like scaling chaos, right? Like don't scale chaos. Well, if you just lottery winners, that is just rapidly scaling chaos. You likely have somebody that their finances aren't in order because they're out there buying lottery tickets, and all of a sudden you give them, $5 million. Well, you just rapidly scaled chaos. Yeah. And guess what it leads to? It leads to massive chaos.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you absolutely nailed it with getting those employees that financial education where it's like, hey, when they get a raise, it actually leads to betterment of their life. That money is actually, it's not just, well, cool, I get to move to a nicer apartment or I get a nicer car or whatever. Cause all that stuff it sounds bogus to people that just need a nicer car or need a car or need a place to live. But it's getting the nicer car has made me happy for a day. Getting the nicer blank, it's dude, it's cool for a week. And then you're it wears off and you just want to get the next nicer thing.
Yeah.
So I think, you're on the right track there. It's like the financial education, eliminating some of their stress from the financial stuff. I think could not only benefit those companies that help like implement that, it'll probably help with the help in the raising of the awareness of the benefits package, get more employees to actually use the benefits package, which helps the business. There's a lot of the reason why they offer it to begin with, because it really does like help the business if more people are, putting money into the benefits package. It helps the employees and it helps you. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Love that.
And I think like even having like a company having like just somebody that comes in and does like a lunch and learn, and I don't even care if it's me, like I'm not even trying to promote that necessarily. I'm just really trying to raise the level of conversation around this area within companies. If you think like, well, they know what they know. They know we're paying an arm and a leg for these benefit packages to the whoever the employee benefits agency or whatever they're called, and they're not coming in and doing this, and they're really not.
No.
And then you unleash the fire hydrant on new employees. Let's say you're hiring predominantly people out of college or 1 or 2 years out of college. Those are your new hires.
Yeah.
And, they've got their job. They're worried about being dressed right. They're worried about being welcomed in the workplace. They're worried about, what is my job?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, hey, here's all this paperwork.
Here's your benefit package.
Hey, pick a health insurance plan. Hey, pick a dental plan. Hey, pick a vision plan. Hey, here's
Open
your retirement
today.
plan. Yeah, we have a 3% match. What do you want to do? I don't know, maybe a 3% match. Okay, great. Go to your desk and go to these, the next 40 hours of orientation.
Yeah. Where are the TSA reports?
Yeah, maybe in a year, your open enrollment company comes in and they're like, what are you doing in your retirement? And they're like, oh, 3%, great, sounds good. And that's no hate to like open enrollment companies, but it's like, maybe we don't need somebody in that space. Maybe it's somebody on the outside. And it's not a financial advisor that's, wants to sell a suite of financial services. Maybe it's people that are very on the outside of it who just come in and they're like, hey, here's the statistics behind how many people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And more money is not necessarily going to solve your problems. I know you don't want to.
There's 100 people in this room. Which 58 of you don't have $1,000?
But
Raise your hand.
But can talk about that in a positive light.
Right.
And talk about, financial stresses. I mean, even within marriages.
Yeah.
The number 1 to number 2 cause of divorce in the country is financial disagreement. If you look into that, about 50% of that is just due to not being educated around your finances. You're arguing about things that you don't know about.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I looked at that whenever I was getting started and I was like, somewhere down the road, we're going to save a marriage. Like my financial snapshot is going to be pivotal in saving a marriage. And if we can get one of those, it was worth it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Cause it's easy to just say, well, finance is the, number one leading cause of divorce, but it's really ignorance about finances.
Yes. It's just not being aware.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I mean, ignorant gets like a really bad rap, really bad connotation, but I just mean it in the literal sense of like not knowing.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, and I feel like I know a little bit more than maybe the average person does about this, being involved in this, but it's like that filling out a personal financial statement with your wife or with your husband, spouse is so important. Like, I can't tell you, you might get into a little bit of a disagreement through the process, but when you're done, you're going to be glad that you did it because people don't talk about money before they're getting married, during marriage. And I'm not talking about where if you're a couple that's not talking about it, where you need to just every single week we're going to talk about money. No. Like, just do what's best for you. But like, if that's once a year, awesome.
At least like if you're doing the financial snapshot, you can print it off. January 1st of every year, go have, a date night and and sit there and be like, hey, here's where we're at. Here's our financial snapshot right now. Where do we want it to be next year?
And I think like in a marriage, there's 2 really important questions that I think that you should answer. You should say, where is all of our money? So, in the event that something unfortunate happened,
Yeah.
To the other person, that personal financial statement is an itemized statement of every single thing that you own with the accounts on it and everything.
Which can be difficult
Yep.
to track it down. Like, I think a lot of people you probably experience, it's like, oh, we had, a couple of little assets we don't even like think about, or there's just money squirreled away.
And you might find money. Like, I had this retirement from this, other job that I had, years ago.
Yeah.
My grandma left me this savings account and it's still kind of like under my parents' name, but it's mine.
Yeah.
I need to, maybe we get that money. Right. And, you might be on the edge of paying down a car or paying off a student loan where you're like, oh yeah, I found this, $5,000 in savings that we had over here. Maybe we just go ahead and knock it out.
Yeah.
So we can just feel good about it.
Yeah. Filling mine out, I was kind of surprised because like in our heads, you've got like 4 things, right? Like you've got like a mortgage and like a car payment and like, a personal bank account and maybe like a business bank account. And like, you have the things that kind of stay on the front burners, right? But then you go start filling these things out and you're like, at least in my case, it was like, oh gosh, there's random stuff like everywhere. We've got like some side by sides. We've got some my wife's got some jewelry we've, bought over the years. And like, there ends up just being like little things that you want to account for when you're trying to get this holistic picture of your finances. And it's just like,
and not everything's digital.
Right.
Like, you were in pawn shops, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know, but if you have silver and gold, like I have silver and gold. Yeah. They sit in, I'm not going to tell you where it sits, but it's something I have. Well, it's like, I know how much I have in terms of ounces of those things, but like
the value changes by the
value changes all the time. And, once or twice a year when I update my personal financial statement on my Financial Snapshot, I'm like, oh yeah, what's the price of gold today? Yeah. And, I'll go and put that number in there.
Yeah.
So
it sounds daunting. I don't want the daunting nature of it to keep anybody from doing it. I'm actually highly encouraging people to do it because the first time you do it, it is the hardest it'll ever be.
It's the hardest. Yep.
But
when you get done, you'll know that you can go back into my Financial Snapshot and you're like, oh, this is going to be really easy.
Oh, it's going to be super easy.
Yep.
We sold that car. We got a different one. We sold that house. We got it. I mean, once you've done it once, it is drastically easier to like upkeep it or keep it up or update it. Or
just go in and edit and update it.
Yeah. But like,
so easy.
Just don't put it off. Do it now. Because the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. You don't want to get to a place tomorrow where you want to get that loan and they're like, well, we need 3 years of documents. And you're like, cool, see you in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that happens, right? It's like if your credit's bad, don't wait until you need your credit to fix it.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to just be really disappointed because it takes time.
Takes time.
Yeah. Awesome. Was there anything we forgot to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we've talked about a lot.
I made you talk about all kinds of things.
How long have we talked?
I don't know. Hour and a half.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
I thought it was great.
It's hard to talk about finances for over an hour. Like it just is because it's like, it's monotonous. It's not like exciting. I try to make it exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like people are just like, their palms get sweaty. They're like, oh, it's a topic we naturally just want to avoid. It's kind of taboo. Families don't talk about it. There's a lot of like ingrained avoidance of it.
Yeah.
That you're trying to fight against. I mean, you've got an uphill battle, right? You're paddling upstream against a strong force of people wanting to avoid talking about finances.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if you like, one of the best things about my Financial Snapshot, you don't have to talk about it at all. You can go sit on a computer by yourself and be horrified about your personal financial statement in solitude. Yep. I love that you're attacking that problem, facing the resistance of the avoidance of, people knowing where they're at financially. It's something that will drastically benefit people, the more they don't avoid it. And I'm speaking to myself included. Like it just can't be avoided. It's got to be attacked. So anyone listening, they're trying to get as many users on My Financial Snapshot as they can. Obviously for, it's a business. They're trying to make money, but also, the more it grows, the better it is for everybody. The more users it has, the more of a service you can provide to those users. Just like anything, like with this YouTube channel, the more subscribers and watchers we have, the more value we can provide to those people. We get different guests and whatever. So we'll put the link in the description, myfinancialsnapshot.com. Is there anywhere else you want people to find you?
We're on Instagram, LinkedIn. We've recently started doing some TikToks. All I think is like at My Financial Snapshot. Just put in the search bar. We should come up.
Awesome. We need to do a discount code for anybody that has made it this far and watches or listens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to do use the discount code HUSTLE20. So HUSTLE 20. The number's 20 in the coupon code at the checkout. I'm definitely we're on the race to get users. We're growing every single week, which is awesome. Getting a lot of really positive and constructive feedback from people. So the more people we get subscribed, the more tools that we can launch, the better we can improve the tools that we have, and ultimately the better education that we'll be able to put out for people in the future. But it's exciting. So.
I love what you're doing. Love the idea and love that. I think it's much needed. So be sure to go to myfinancialsnapshot.com and use code HUSTLE20 for 20% off. That's awesome. Hopefully, some people watch this and go and subscribe and use the tool to better themselves, their business, and then their community and so forth. So
using it once pays for itself.
Yeah. So I mean, do the personal financial statement and know where you're at, and you'll save yourself a lot of money, not just from doing it yourself, but also by having a glimpse at your finances will put you in a good spot. So
absolutely.
L.B., thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And thank you for if you're watching, you can check us out on Spotify. If you're listening, you can go check us out on YouTube and see the video and all the content we're putting out there. Thank you so much for making it this far in the episode, and go out there and hustle on purpose. Thanks for watching. If you liked that video as much as we liked making it, be sure to check out another one. You've got one here. You got another one over here. If you want to listen to the podcast audio only, go check out the Spotify link in the description. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It helps us out a ton. And please hit the bell if you want notifications anytime we drop a new video. Hope to see you on the next one.